Good morning, friends. Happy Saturday, November 26th. Yes, I had to look and make sure of my date. And so welcome to Dream Big Bible Study. And this is Dream Big Today. And what a wonderful Saturday. And you're probably kicking back thinking, oh my goodness, Thanksgiving is over. I can just relax and rest. And well, if you're me, you cooked out on Thanksgiving Day just for the two of you. And today is my day to cook turkey. So just if you thought Debbie's not going to cook anything, well, I'm doing it today. So I've got a turkey in the oven as we speak. So I'm just so glad that you are sharing a time of your day with me this morning. Just grab a cup of coffee and sit down and let's talk about Daniel. Some of my favorite Bible reading is today. And as I read through all of it, I thought, I don't even know how I'm going to be able to talk about this. I want to talk about all of it, but you know what? We're going to have to narrow it down. So I'm so glad that you joined. And so if you would just put your prayer request in the chat box and share your praise reports. We love hearing how God worked through your life this week, today, or whatever you're going through, because there's just something pops up often, and we are learning to trust. We're going to be talking about trust today and going through trials. I want to start out with my devotion today. I wasn't going to read it. I didn't think I have time, and I probably don't, but I'm going to take time. So here we go. Jana, I'm glad you're here with me, and Eileen, and I don't know who else has popped up yet, but I can see your names. Carrying Jesus. I want to live close to you and open to you, aware and attentive to, trusting and thanking you. This is that time that we want to be thankful in all things. We want to be thankful, but also we need to be thankful in July, in April, in February, not just this time that we focus on it. Let's try to put that on your calendar so you can remember to be thankful every day. So I opened myself fully, heart, mind, and spirit to your living presence. Please help me stay aware of you as I follow my path through this day. Today, be aware. Just know that besides being in you, just feel like you're just holding hands with him as you're going to the mall, as you're going to the grocery store, or whatever your day is. I'm comforted by knowing that there's never a moment when you are not fully aware of me. I want to be attentive. I want to be alert and listening carefully, not only to you, but to the people you bring into my life. When's the last time you've listened to somebody? Do you listen? Do you still have your phone in your hand and you're responding into a text with somebody else while you're saying, yeah, go ahead, I'm still listening to you, and you're looking down on your phone? Let me tell you, that is not engaging with somebody. You stop and look at them and really listen. I found that listening to others with full prayerful attention blesses both them and me. See, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was telling them what I was doing, and they never heard a word. And I thought, well, why am I even in a conversation? The Bible is full of instruction to trust you and thank you, because you're supremely trustworthy. Believing in you and your promises provide a firm foundation for my life. Moreover, you understand my weaknesses. See, he knows everything about me, and he knows those times that he's going to have to help me if I'm struggling to do something that's just not in my area of expertise. He's going to supply the strength, and that's where he shines whenever he's working through my weakness. You help me overcome my unbelief. You've been teaching me the importance of thanking you throughout the day. This delightful discipline blesses me greatly, keeping me close to you and increasing my joy. The Bible is full of instruction. We got to remember that as we read this today. So we are going into Daniel 2:24 through 3:30. And what a story that we've got today. Daniel went into Arioch, whom the king had ordered to execute the wise men of Babylon. And this, I find this is interesting. See, let's see, I should have probably backed up a little bit, but Nebuchadnezzar's had a dream, and he wants somebody to interpret the dream, but he doesn't tell them what it is. So here's Daniel, and Daniel has told Arioch to don't kill all the wise men, take me to him. Well, and this was a little point I wanted to bring out, because I thought this was just par for the course. Daniel raises his hand and goes to him. Now here is Arioch that takes Daniel to the king, and he says, I have found one of the captives from Judah who will tell the king the meaning of the dream. Pat me on the back, give myself a high five. I found him. No, you didn't. He's trying to glorify himself. How great is that for him? If he can score some points with the king, because I mean, there's murder happening right and left. Daniel, he had refused to take credit, recognizing that the credit went to God in this interpretation. And so we see there was just a little bit of pride there for Arioch in that. I did, and I thought that was funny. There's some of these little things that's just kind of fun to pull out. And then Daniel goes on to talk about the dream, and I've got all my little papers are falling apart here. And so he says, and I like this, he who reveals secrets have shown you what is going to happen. And so he goes on to talk about all of this. Now I've got, my friend Sue gave me a little pamphlet that they did on Daniel at their church. And so I don't know, you've probably seen these before, but there is a picture of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And as we see in going down through here, the head of gold is Babylon, the chest and arms of silver is Persia, the belly of bronze is Greece, the legs of iron is Rome, the feet and toes of iron and clay is Rome, and apostate Israel. Now the rock that was carved out that destroys the image is Jesus. But if you notice how it's layered, the most expensive, the most precious metal is at the top. That's the gold. And then it's lesser as it gets on down to the feet and toes of iron and clay. Okay, so there's kind of like a pecking order there, from the greatest to the least. And I don't have my page turned just right. So, but because of all of the good stuff in here, I'm just going to jump on. I wanted to go into that and just share that with you. As we go on, he's talking about, let's see, in 44, during the reigns of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed or conquered. Now, this is part of what Daniel is telling him. That is the meaning of the rock cut from the mountain. That was what I showed you. The great God was showing the king what will happen in the future. The dream is true and its meaning is certain. So now, Nebuchadnezzar, threw himself down before Daniel, worshiped him, and commanded his people to offer sacrifices and burn sweet incense before him. The king said to Daniel, "Truly, your God is the greatest of gods, the Lord of over kings and a revealer of mysteries, for you have been able to reveal this secret." So Daniel's friends got to share in this advancement because they accomplished much of the victory through their prayers. See, they all were together. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. And that was their new names. The king appointed Daniel to the high position and his friends. So now then, down to 3.1, chapter 3:1. Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide. Sounds like a totem pole, doesn't it? And set that up. Now then, he says that when you hear the sound of the horn and the flute and all of those instruments, you have to bow down and worship the king. Anyone who refuses to obey will immediately be thrown into the blazing furnace. And so what did the friends do? These friends were in total obedience to God. See, they had been raised and taught, and they knew that God was over all. There was some astrologers around that ran to Nebuchadnezzar, and they said, "There's some Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who have you've put in charge of the province of Babylon, and they pay no attention to your majesty. They refuse to serve your gods and do not worship the gold statue you've set up. So here comes the fire." The king is mad. And they tell him, "We'll give you one more chance to bow down. But if you refuse, you'll be thrown into the fire immediately." Now, what would you do? You got one more chance to bow down to worldly things. Can you stand strong today? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty." And I don't think that they said this in a hateful manner. I think they were just talking in a normal tone. "He will rescue us from your power, your majesty." I don't think that was sarcastic for them. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty. See, they were still respectful, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up. So how does that relate to us today? I have been reading, of course, I'm reading all the time, but how can we compare then and now? There's a lot of things that's similar to what's going on in the world today. See, they say in Daniel at this time, "You will do this or else." So first of all, we live in a hostile society to the faith in God. What we experience over the last few years, 2 years definitely, is, because of COVID, you cannot attend church. You can't do this. Well, thank goodness that we were able to watch church online. But when did you finally walk through the door to go worship in a corporate setting? See, Daniel and his friends faced this pagan culture, and they stood strong through all of this. We face commands today of authority that might not align with the Bible. What have we heard on the news? In you're a Christian bakery and somebody comes in and wants you to bake a cake for their wedding, and their lifestyle doesn't flow with what the word says, and they get in trouble for not serving those people. We face serious consequences, just like for them. Whenever we don't comply with what the world says or our new laws say we're supposed to do, we're supposed to obey the law. It's not to be some anarchy that we just stand up and rebel about everything, because we are supposed to obey our government. But what is above our government's rules and regulations is the word of God. And if you think back, as we have read back in the days of Moses, the Hebrew women, the midwives, were supposed to get all of the baby boys that were born and kill them. Don't let those Hebrew women keep having baby boys, because there's too many of them. And what did those women do? They refused, because their fear of God was greater than the fear of man. We also endure cultural and societal punishment for maintaining our beliefs. See, the Hebrew women were really at risk for what they were not doing, but they still stood strong. They stood firm in their faith. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were taken and sent to be put in the furnace. Nebuchadnezzar was so mad that he told them to heat that up 7 times hotter than usual. It was so hot that whenever the guards threw them into the furnace, after they bound and tied them up and put them in there, they died because it was so hot. But here's a thought I didn't even think about until today. The furnace being heated 7 times hotter was just a fact that Nebuchadnezzar was so mad. It didn't mean that it was going to kill them more so than anything. It meant that it was going to kill them faster. If he wanted to torture him, he would have left it on a slow burn and just let them be tortured to death in a slow fire. But no, he heated it up so it was so hot that just probably disintegrated the guys that threw him in there. And their faith, think about their faith in that. It was so strong, and they knew that God had a plan. And another note I had said their faith was not presumptuous. While they believed that God had the power to deliver them from the fiery furnace, they knew they could not demand it of God. They left it to his sovereign will. If you think about the Lord's Prayer, we pray, thy will be done. Do you believe that? Like these friends did? They didn't stop and talk it over. They didn't say, well, wait just a minute. Let us have a little meeting first. Maybe Daniel will come and we'll just kind of see how we want to play this out. Maybe we can compromise. They stood strong. They drew the line in the sand. They all knew that they couldn't deny God. Their faith was so great that they knew that this is how today is going to roll. Now, had they ever seen anybody be thrown in the furnace? They were absolutely walking into the unknown. And they probably seen people or heard of people being burned at the stake. And they saw how gruesome and horrible that was. These were young guys. They say that there is probably 15 years or so in between chapter 2 and chapter 3. And we know that all of these friends were taken when they were teenagers, probably 18 or so. I think of my grandson whenever I think about somebody experiencing something so awful as that, because he's in that age. And then fast forward a few years, and now you're going into a fire. And what a fire this is. Nebuchadnezzar looks in there, and all of a sudden he sees somebody else walking in there. I thought I told you just to put those 3 in there. Who is in there? And then once again, he was amazed. And Nebuchadnezzar says, look, I see 4 men unbound, walking around in the fire, unharmed. And the 4th looks like a god. What do we see from that? The fire only burned what bound them. We go through fiery trials. And can we come out the other side that has more faith than what we had when we started? Can we be like these 3 friends that faced the unknown? They had no idea how this was going to turn out. They didn't know that they weren't going to burn to death, but they knew that everything was in the hand of God. And they did not know how God was going to work this out. They didn't doubt it. They just went through. They came through, and the things that held them down, held them back, they were freed from. They came out as conquerors. They had him with them through the whole time. God doesn't always change let me reword that. His protection doesn't prevent problems. His protection takes us through them. Like the valley of the shadow of death, he walks through that with us. We walk with it. Are you going to stop and just lay down in that valley and not try to come out the other side with him? Just curl up and just, lose all faith? We don't know if the 3 men knew that the Son of God was with them in their fiery trial, but whether we're aware of it or not, Jesus is with us through every trial that we go through. See, we should also focus on Christ, not the crisis. God can deliver us from a trial, or he can miraculously sustain us and strengthen us in a trial. And I can go back and think throughout my whole life, whenever I had those times it was absolutely difficult, that I just didn't know how I could take one more step, that I can look back now and see how he came around me and he comforted me, or he pushed things back so I didn't have to deal with any more than he could get me through. He can get you through anything, but we've got to have the faith to go through that. Then Nebuchadnezzar came and as close as he could to the door, and he said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out here now. And they stepped out of the fire. This trial didn't have any power over these young men. They were thoroughly submitted to the power and the will of God. Jesus promises us today in John 16:33, in the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Now, Nebuchadnezzar learned a lot about God through this, And previously we see where he it seems like that he's a believer, but I think he's a knowledger, because he knows what happened during these times. But it's like whenever we get to those points where we've seen a miracle, we've witnessed something that's just absolutely awesome, and we're all in, and we it's God all the way. But then the next day comes and everything's normal again, and we forget to pray. We forget to thank him. I heard it said that that the amount of time that the normal person prays at this time is 45 seconds a day. And that's if they even stop long enough. See, so many times in this day, we don't feel like that we've got time for anything. We don't really think that we've got time to read our Bible, but we do, because we see it the way our 1 year Bible is set up. It's like maybe 15 minutes whenever we read this out of each day. We need to stay in tune to the word, because as we see these friends pushed through some difficult times. So let's jump into 1 Peter 4:7 through 5:14, and I'm going to have to scoot on this pretty quick. It says in 7, the end of the world is coming soon. So we've heard this. We know that, because there will be an end. Therefore, be earnest and disciplined in your prayers. And so, we just assume tomorrow's going to be here, because we think that we're not going to finish doing what we're doing today. We'll do it tomorrow. We procrastinate. But when you think about how important is tomorrow to that little baby that's in the NICU, that's just a few hours old, we just pray that they can make it one more day. We pray that our loved one can make it one more day. Tomorrow is an important day for all of us. Well, let's prepare for tomorrow. And most important of all, show deep love. What I like in the New King James Version, it says fervent love. And that love is, let me read it word for word in that. And I lost it. Okay, there it is. And above all things, have fervent love for one another. This is a fiery, a love that is so deep that you look for the good in everybody. You don't look to see what you can be critical of. You don't look for through having the company come in that you're going to look at your whoever did the cooking and say, oh, it could have used more salt. You cooked it too long. The turkey's too dry. Your bread is too heavy. You didn't let it raise long enough. Are you that critical person that you're not fervently loving like maybe you should? But drop down to 12. Dear friends, don't be surprised at the fiery trials that you are going through as if something strange were happening to you. Think about the 3 friends that went into the fire. We are going to be in some type of trial, but this is our testing. It's been said that a Christian can be like a tea bag. He's not worth much until he's been put through some hot water. So 14 says, if you are insulted because you bear the name of Christ, you'll be blessed, for the glorious Spirit of God rest upon you. I'm going to jump on over to chapter 5, verse 6. Humble yourselves and under the mighty power of God, and at the right time, he will lift you up in honor. See, we don't have to walk in a room and pat ourselves on the back. In fact, we shouldn't. Give all your worries and cares to God, for he cares about you. Think about how he jumped into the fire with the three friends. They had no idea how that was what that was gonna look like. I don't think they ever saw anything like that. And then verse 8, stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a lion, a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Stand firm against him and be strong in your faith. Remember that your family of believers all over the world is going through the same suffering you are. But notice that this is like a lion. He's not a lion. He can be shut down with just saying the name of Jesus. But whenever we jump over to Psalms 119, and it from 1 Peter 5:8 on watching your great enemy. Now let's look over at Psalms 119:95. It says, the wicked hide along the way to kill me. I will quietly keep my mind on your laws. This is our goal today. Keep my mind on your laws. What does the promises say to you today? My goodness, for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel, they knew who God was to them, and they worshiped him regardless of what the world said to them. Don't do it. We'll kill you if you do. Don't do it. But you know what? They couldn't help it. They could not help it. They probably couldn't wait to get back into their living area and just start singing praise songs or down on their knees. How firm can you stand? Remember to stand firm against him and be strong in your faith. I just had to say that again. Peter's teaching and testimony in this letter is to urge God's people to stand in the true grace of God. And what a great reading for a day that we're still in the holiday time, and we still need to be putting on that coat of humility, that hat of love, the shoes of peace. I could just name off all kinds of things, but don't take your pride into the house. Check that out by the door outside. Go in with fervent love for everybody that you see. And so today, my time is done, but pray today that you're always self-controlled and alert. Just know that we are in a spiritual war. We don't fight against flesh and blood. If somebody irritates you and is just almost making you mad, just know that there's somebody behind that. That's that enemy prowling like a lion. And he's just noisy, because a lion's roar out in the wilderness can echo for miles and miles and miles. And you could let that noise intimidate you to where you lash out at the wrong person. The enemy is always going to be prowling. Pray for protection for yourself and your family and your friends, so they can recognize the schemes of the enemy as you go about your day. So This is all I have today. I love you. And you have a great Saturday. And I'm going to go finish cooking on my dinner. I love you. Take care. Bye-bye.